So today brings us to Troller's Ghyll. I'm joined today by Marianne, which is nice to see. So we're up just outside Grassington. Now we're on the sandstones, as you can see from this pretty rubbishy soil. Oh, there's a kestrel. Okay, so this is Troller's Ghyll. I'm going to walk up here. So as we walk up the Ghyll, we're kind of heading roughly north. You can see a bit of a brown mound in front of us. I'll get to the other side and explain what that is. So this is that mound I was talking about. As you can clearly see, it's a man-made affair. In the early 19th century they decided to build a dam up here, make a reservoir. I can only assume they were going to have a mill downstream. However, it never got done. Just out of interest, if you notice on the far bank, you'll see up there, these are limestone beds dipping down towards the south. Might keep that in mind for later on. At the beginning of the walk this is. So those limestone benches that were over there, we've come here, you can see they're flattening out those limestone beds. Effectively we're in the core of what's called the Skyhome anticline, and as you go along, and we'll get to it in a bit, you can see the rocks begin to dip down the other side. The geology is a bit complicated because there's a bit of faulting going on as well, but I'll again get to that later. And clearly you can see the stream meandering its way quite happily along the floor of this valley, which is sandstone. So in front of us directly in front of us is Middle Hill. There's a valley goes off to the left, and there's a valley goes off to the right. We're going to go off to the right up to onto the moor, around and back down this side. So the stream is now split into a couple of paths. Here's one spring. We'll carry on. So as Marianne staggers towards us, we saw the one spring. As we come round, we've only come up about 50 metres, and here is the next, issuing forth from under Middle Hill. So approximately 5 metres away from that is this stream. Now this stream's normally dry, so, or is often dry. In fact, this is the first time I've come up since there's been water in it. So it'll be interesting to see where it starts from. So we've come about 75 metres, and now we're going to meander up there, which is Troller's Ghyll. Note that the rocks now are dipping northwards. You can see on the right and the left there. So we've come over that anticline. So here is the third and final source, or the first, depending on which way you come in. And if you look this side, you'll see we're into the dry valley of Troller's Ghyll. There's quite a bit of faulting and mineral exploration been going on up here, so we'll point that out in a bit. So in the dry stream now, there hasn't been enough rain. This little waterfall feature here is formed by a fault crossing the stream. You can see, just carries on and on up there. One of the many cross-cutting faults, and these are the ones that get actually mineralised and exploited for lead mainly. But we'll see that in a bit. So Marianne's just walking up the dry stream bed. We've come a little further up. As you can hear, there's water. And where does it go? Well, down here somewhere. And then it carries on up here and develops actually into a proper stream. So one has to think something geologically interesting is going on. Let's go see. So as you can see, the stream is a proper stream now. If you look up, you'll see there's a small hole there, and as we come round there's a small hole there. These are a couple of adits into the rock, just exploiting the lead. That was easy to get to. You can see Marianne up there. I'm heading on further. So we're up at the top of the Ghyll now. You can see the rocks have changed completely. Much more sandy beds. If they're not sandstones, then they're certainly sandy limestones. Once again in the Ghyll series. You can see I think they've probably constructed some kind of bridge with a small track to pull the tubs along. As we pan round here, and it disappears off into the sunset. But as you go around here, you'll see there's a spoil heap. I'll get to that. So you can see a Ghyll or a gully up there, which is working its way down. Clearly they thought that there was something important going on there, and so they decided to drive a mine into it. Here's the old working shed, I think. In fact, is the entrance. I'll be going back into that in the summer. And here's the spoil heap. Still remnants of minerals here, so we'll have a ratch around and see what we can find. But it's the top of Troller's Ghyll anyway. And you can clearly see now we've climbed up onto Middle Hill. You can see the faulting that's been exploited by the miners in the past. Wasn't so easy down in the valley, but now you can. Down the way around, there's the tube with the lead mine down at the bottom. So the veins, the mineral veins, run away from me and behind me, and we'll see where they come out on the other side later. Over the top then, from Troller's Ghyll, we're going to head down here, but first we're going up to that little plantation in the distance to a pothole. So here we are, we've come up to the plantation, Hell Hole Wood. Why it's called that is, there's a hole down there, and it's a pothole called Hell Hole. You can see it's quite an abrupt end to what's quite a deep valley, and the water plunges down there and comes out a long way away. It's going to be a trip for me and Bill. So the start of our walk back down. We come down from Hell Hole and we're just at the head of the, going down towards where the lead mines are, and then down the dry valley back down to the bottom of Troller's Ghyll. So very obviously something to be exploited going up that bloody great crack there. Let's go and have a look. And so, as you can see, is the entrance to a pretty, well, might be described as sketchy entrance to a lead mine, but you can get in it. And there are a couple of adits above it which I've had a look at, but unfortunately they're collapsed into this one. So yeah, might not be the wisest thing. But here we are at the head of the dry valley, coming down. There's obviously been quite a bit of exploitation of this lead mine in the past, because there's some remains of a concrete structure and quite a flat area for processing. I'll find out a bit more and insert it into this video. So there's clearly the entrance and the various levels above it. As I said, sadly now collapsed in. But along this face along here there are various small adits as well, driven into the rock. I'll point one out in it. So as promised, just climbed up a little so you can see an entrance, and further along in that gully there's an entrance. There's Marianne, engrossed in learning about lead mining geology. just as an aside, I think looking at those spurs, the way they interlock on the left and the right, suggests to me that this is probably a post-glacial valley. I don't think any massive amounts of floodwaters have come through here and carved it. Probably a stream that's just now disappeared, maybe by head capture. Anyway, that's our route home. And so here we are, back at the bottom end of Troller's Ghyll. Those magnificent scree slopes opposite. Okay, well, we'll follow this stream down and see you for the next episode.